But one of the things about burnout, and I have experienced burnout more times than I can count, right? As a solopreneur and as a mom and as a wife and as a friend, trying to do all the things with in all categories of life. One of my favorite things to say. Burnout is not doing too much. It's doing too much of the wrong thing.
Welcome to the Spiral Up podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Lachelle Weenie, a peak performance coach and business strategist dedicated to helping you see what's possible within you, the blind spots that are holding you back, and the solutions to ensure success and fulfillment without the hustle. I use my secret sauce of metaphysics, brain science, and scripture to work with God to manifest your ideal life and business. If you're ready to create massive forward momentum in your business and bust through the blocks that drag you down, join me on the Spiral Up journey and create the clarity, confidence, and consistency to become the CEO that lives your life by design. It's time to create the sustainable impact, income, and time freedom you desire faster. Now is the time to spiral up.
Hey friends, welcome back to the Spiral Up podcast. I am so excited for our conversation with Mikel Mikel today. You guys, she is a rock star CEO. She's an author of her newer book, The Black Line, and she is a mom of two. In fact, little Nathan is not very old. He's like 6 weeks old, you guys. So Mikel, thank you for being here as a new mom, as a kick-in CEO, and making time for our conversation today. I'm so excited to have you here.
Oh my gosh, I've been looking forward to this since we first met. So I'm excited to be here for sure. Thanks.
I love it, girl. Okay, so, I was explaining to you before we hit record that I love it when you guys get a chance to tell us a little bit more about what you do and how you serve the world, because it's so much more fun to hear your passion. So why don't you give us the lowdown on who Mikel is and how you love to show up and help the world?
I want to start by saying to all of the moms on this planet that are listening to this, I just think there's no better time than the present to say that we can do hard things.
Yes.
And if you're not a mom juggling all of the things all at the same time, then you're not on our level. Sorry. But that's just the truth, right? We just have a wavelength that we can operate on that other people just can't. And I just honor other moms, especially in this season for me personally. But on the backside of that, to give some history, I am a mom of two. So I have a 4.5-year-old and a 6-week-old. And I also have a whole lot of loss and sadness in between those two. And I think a lot of moms can relate to that as well. I was on a call even just this morning and the gentleman was like, wow, 5 years apart. That seems like a little long. And I'm like, yeah, that wasn't by choice. Not that I need to get into that with him, but clearly, most moms would say that wasn't by choice. And in my case, that certainly wasn't either. But prior to mom Mikel, I was a Division I athlete. So I swam competitively for 20 years, all through elementary school, middle school, high school, all the way through college, went through the recruiting process that a lot of college athletes experience, had the luxury, if you will, of traveling to 6 different schools and ultimately deciding on Rutgers. So I swam for Rutgers out in New Jersey. Awesome. For all my East Coast people, I went from Southern California, born and raised, to New Jersey. The Jersey girl in me lives on, but I'm originally from Los Angeles, California. I don't always love to claim that, but that is the truth. And fast forward, after college, I became a competitive CrossFitter when I retired from swimming. Ended up meeting my husband shortly after that CrossFit career ended in 2018, latter half of 2018. And now, as far as fitness, I do a lot of running and I love to work out. So we've been spending a lot of time in our garage with our boys, both boys, introducing them to fitness from a very early age. And professionally, I love being able to teach any solopreneur, entrepreneur, sales professionals, mortgage, real estate, whatever industry you're in. If your job is to go outsource and create revenue for yourself, meaning your job is to go generate a lead to convert it in order to keep your lights on and to pay your bills, my job is to teach you how to prospect successfully through social as the vehicle to do that. So we're ditching the phone calls, the emails, the text messages. We're not doing those as far as prospecting, but I just teach people how to do it specifically through social, because we are spending so much time and energy and money, frankly, on our social presences these days.
Yep.
So my job is to teach those people how to actually convert them. But the reason I say it that way is how that came to be and how I now teach it came out of a really powerful God story for me that then became the inner fabric of The Black Line in the book that I wrote last year.
Why don't you go ahead and dive into that? Because I really can't wait to hear about the background story of that book.
Oh man, the black line, I hope we're okay to be extra vulnerable. I'm a vulnerable person.
This is the way we roll here in Spiral
Yeah.
Up for sure.
Well, good. And I had this vision. I was actually texting back and forth with my best friend this morning, who's also a very prominent keynote speaker. And I said, girl, I had this vision of my next keynote for the Black Line where I'm sitting on the stage in the very front with no PowerPoint, just me in a bar stool. And I just wanted it to feel that way for me to tell this story because it's such a raw emotional moment for me that's taken me a long time to be able to put into words and to formulate. And I still don't feel like it's perfect, but
Yeah.
you know, when is it ever? But the truth of the matter is the black line and the whole emphasis in what I do and teach and who I am to my very core was essentially born out of sitting on a toilet on November 15th, miscarrying a baby. And I hate to say it that way in a TMI context, but the truth is that God met me there. And I was already a God person. I have 2 Corinthians chapter 5, verse 7 tattooed on my right arm, which is, I will walk by faith and not by sight, which is my favorite scripture in the Bible. And I always believed in God. I always had this sort of, feeling that he was present and around. And I had been baptized at 26, much later in life, which is another story. But for me, sitting on a toilet, miscarrying a baby that I had prayed so hard for and being really angry at myself for caring more about work than what was happening to my body really pissed me off, frankly. And so I was mad at God. I was mad at myself. I was mad at my surroundings, not necessarily people in particular, but just I was like, how did I get here? Right.
Mhm.
Like I've worked so hard in my life and in my career. Why is this happening? God always says good things happen to good people, bad things happen to bad people, but he also tells us that bad things happen to good people for a reason.
Right.
So I'm sitting on the toilet literally on November 15th of 2024 thinking that exact sentiment, like, God, what is the whole point here? And I remember thinking to myself, God gives us a mess and he also gives us messes to give us a message. So what is the message?
Mhm.
And praying about it. And it wasn't until a walk a few days later on a Sunday where I had my Holy Spirit moment where I realized what God had been trying to teach me all along, which is that I had been working so hard to affirm myself and to make other people feel like I had all of my what together
Mhm.
when I didn't,
Mhm.
in most cases. But ultimately, what God had given me in that moment was three big things. First and foremost, I'm not meant to do this alone. Life is not meant to be done alone, no matter who you are. And I had been horrible at leaning on other people forever. I'm a very high D on the DISC profile, meaning I just get shit done. Like
Yep.
I don't need help. I don't want help. And if I don't know how to do it, cool, I'll just fail until I figure it out. So number one, we were not meant to do things alone. Number two, the biggest part of the mess and the message in it was prior to that point in that year. So this is late 2024. In May of that year, my number one employee, my kind of CEO-ish in a way, she had decided very, very out of the blue to leave my company. And it was devastating and heartbreaking. One of those, like you sit on your floor in your bedroom and you're like, oh my God, what is happening right now?
Yeah.
And our sons were 24 hours apart. We were very, 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 very close. Her wife and I had gone way back to the CrossFit days and competed together for years. So I had this like very spiritual, emotional connection to this human. And when this person was on my team for 2.5 years, I'd never had a single month where we weren't in the green. My P&L was phenomenal. My growth trajectory was out of this world. And I had attached my self-worth to this human that was alongside me.
Right.
And in it, when she decided to leave, there was something really bad that happened in all of that, which is I hired too fast. How many of us can relate to that?
Yes.
Because we're like,
Right.
oh crap, I have to fill this position really quickly.
Right.
So what happened was I filled the position fast, which I should not have done. But that was in June of 2024. I find out I'm pregnant in September of 2024. I miscarry in November of 2024. So there's your timeline.
Yeah.
And in November, I looked at my bank account and I did not have enough to pay payroll unless I closed several deals very quickly. So in a very short amount of time, the wrong hire had taken a ton out of me, not just financially, but emotionally and spiritually for sure.
Right.
Um, So that was the second big message, right? Don't rush things. There's a reason why God's timing is what God's timing is. There's a reason why we have people in our lives for certain seasons, and we need to pray more before we make decisions. So that was the second thing.
Yeah.
And then the third big thing was that my husband and I, and this is just very candid, and I think a
Yeah.
lot of us women can relate, our marriage was very difficult at this point. Very, very difficult. And I love my husband beyond measure, and never in a million years would I ever want to be with anyone else. But in that season, it was incredibly difficult to have a husband that left at 5 a.m. and didn't get home until 4 p.m. and then immediately went into the garage to work out.
Mhm.
And we got maybe 2 hours of family time before we went to bed and did the whole thing all over again. And in all of that, when you wrap it with a bow, all three of those things, I was sitting on my toilet in my master bedroom, bleeding and thinking more about all of those things related to work than I was about what was going on in my own body. And I tied that down by saying, in all of the mess, the message is, for me, it
Mhm.
wasn't about work. It's not about money. It's not about, material possessions or earthly things. It's
Mhm.
about the relationships that you have, and what does God give you as far as talents. And I
Mhm.
believe my talent has always been relationships. And instead of focusing on them, I was focusing on money, frankly.
Mhm.
So there's a lot more to unpack there, but those are the three things quickly that I could share with you. And I did end up ultimately retiring my husband from corporate army life just a few months after the miscarriage, which is a whole nother thing. But
Yeah.
it's just a beautiful story.
Goodness. So, what I want to just point out, you guys, is Michelle's resiliency here, right? So, I talk a lot about how life, and that it's really important for us to find some kind of an anchor, some kind of message that we can bring ourselves to stay in high vibrations and service and enjoy as much as we can, right? Because like you said, we live in a fallen world. There's going to be things that are happening all around us. And I just want to take a moment. I don't want to offset this whole conversation, but I just want to take a moment and like witness for you and bond in your vulnerability right now, because as you had gone through all of your fertility stuff, so did we. And our kids are 4 years apart. I also miscarried in between my two. And I remember same, like I chose the site attack because I didn't want to have to go to the hospital and miscarriage there. So I sat on the toilet just like you did and
Yeah,
wondered, like, am I flushing my babies down the toilet? Because I was
literally.
carrying
Yeah.
twins. And I remember that was a moment for me, and I wrote about this in my book, where I was mad at God. I was mad at God. Of like, how could you give me something that you knew I was praying so hard for and then take it away? What's up
Hmm.
with that? Like, then don't even bother giving it to me. And I was so angry. And then before we started chatting on the recording, Michelle and I were chatting about her baby and his sleep training, and we did the same thing with ours. And I remember we had a philosophy when the kids were little that however old they were, that's how many minutes they were like essentially in a timeout if they were misbehaving, just to redirect them, right? So for one, they got 1 minute timeout. And I remember my son being 4 years old during this time, and I'm like, like holding him, comforting him, but he's in timeout for 4 minutes. And I just remember like I hated it. I hated it. I hated him sad. I hated that I had to make him sad for 4 minutes, right? But I had to do it because I loved him more than I loved myself in that space. I had to love him enough to do what he needed, not what I wanted. I had to love him enough to do what I needed to be his guide and his parent, and be there for him while he was going through hard things that were going to create the human being that I was put on this planet to raise, right?
Hmm.
And it was in that moment, and I get goosebumps talking about it actually, because it was that moment that it clicked for me. I'm like, that moment I realized that God didn't abandon me. He actually loves me more than what I could have ever imagined. And because I was already a parent, at least at this point, I knew that, gosh, I love my kid enough to do what they need, not what I want, but I will always be there with them. And that's how God is, right? Like,
Hmm.
we're not being punished, we're not being tested, but we are able to have the evolution and the message and what we need to evolve spiritually and to lean on him, to trust in him even more. And that's where I had gotten. So I just wanted to just like pause for a minute and just say, like, I get you, I see you. And one of the things that you kind of identified in the second story. It's always something I talk about too, is like being slow to hire, quick to fire, you guys. And that is
Yes.
harder. It is harder to do sometimes than it is to say. But I'm going to tell you, and Michelle and I are going to both say, like, it is worth the
So true.
But you mentioned something that I think is important in the sense that your identity was wrapped up in this relationship with this person. And I think that sometimes that happens with all of us, like whether it be the identity that we have with the paycheck, whether it be the identity that we have with the clients that we serve, that I am this, like I am a coach and it's all about them, right? Or maybe it's a title that we have, or even just the mom identity. And I think that for me, it goes back to very, very source code level of who we are and who we believe we are and who we remember we are at the core, that is independent of anything outside of us, that is going to be the stable thing that is going to get us success, that's going to be able to keep us in line when things get hard. And we're just curious on what your thoughts are on that.
Oh gosh, I mean, you and I could talk for an hour just about that. I think
I know, right?
the truth is, someone said it to me that is very close to me. And, I've struggled personally with affirmation my entire life. Words of affirmation is my love language, even though for some reason it feels like it's changed as I've gotten older.
Yeah.
But I remember, my husband and I did the freaking cliche, what's your love language before you get married thing.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's super important. Mine is words of affirmation too, by the way. So
yeah, and I to some extent it still is, but what I can say has changed so dramatically is that someone made a comment to me, and a very close friend, that why was I seeking affirmation from someone who I wouldn't want to be like? And I was like, whoa, right? Like that was a showstopper comment. And he wasn't talking about this particular individual that was working for me at the time. He was actually talking about my parents. And that's hard to admit on a live podcast, right? But the truth is that for 30 plus years of my life, I was seeking validation from my parents and had never gotten it and couldn't find it, right?
Yeah.
So when I was actively miscarrying, in this process of the 6 to 8 week of, is this baby going to live? Is this baby not going to live? How many times am I getting my blood drawn? I think I was over 20 by the time I was done. And my final blood draw, my son was sitting next to me and he yelled at the nurse saying that she was hurting me. And I ripped the needle out of my arm and I just was like, I'm done. Like, I'm not doing this anymore. Right. But all of that, I was seeking approval from the world with, and to give you guys some context timeline wise, right? I found out I was pregnant in September, and which meant that I would have been due in June. My due date, I believe, was June 6th. And I had 8 speaking gigs lined up between July through end of October. It was the busiest speaking segment of my entire career. Now, as a speaker, right, and I know you know this, right?
Yeah.
We pray for that and we work our butts off to get those opportunities. And we have to do lots of unpaid ones before we get the paid ones. And then before we get the money that we're actually worth to be on stage for some of these, right? It's this whole evolutionary process to get to that point. And I was staring at a season of 8 fully paid speaking gigs that I had worked for years and years and years to get the text messages that I was getting at that point. So I'm sitting in the waiting room of a doctor's office, getting text messages from people that are like, oh my gosh, we see you're keynoting this. You just like bursted onto the scene. I swear I see you everywhere. And so you're getting this affirmation, right? We're seeking, which we seek in the middle of my body is failing me and failing this baby. And I was more worried about that. And it really pissed me off, frankly. As far as to go back to your point, and I didn't mean to go around that, but I felt like that was important to say.
Yeah, for sure.
I was seeking affirmation from this individual being on my team and saying, I am nothing without her.
Yeah.
Which is so untrue. And when this person left, I thought, well, I have to fill this role. And so instead of slowing myself down and saying, who is Michelle? What does Michelle want this company to look like? What qualities did this individual have that I need in the replacement? I just hired super fast that came as a referral from someone who she was a director somewhere else. But here's the problem, right? Spiritually and morally not aligned. She did not have the right DISC profile, which say what you want about the DISC profile, but it matters.
It totally matters. I'm an ID, by the way. And
oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's why you and I get along so well.
We totally do, but I need C's in my life.
Yes.
Right. And my husband's an S. and my husband's an S. And so sometimes I'm just like, he's my loving lesson of patience, because I have to give him patience to like, I'm like, let's go.
Yes. And my husband is the exact same. My husband is a high S, low C, or sorry, high S, second high C, and then a very, very low D, very low D. Whereas I'm a very high D and very high I. So I always joke that we're like the perfect little DISC. We spell disc. But the truth is, on the disc profile, she had little to no C whatsoever and was very high S, which means she's very methodical, very slow, very like speak when spoken to. And I'm thinking to myself, what the did I do? And in 4 months' time, I put so much stock into this individual that my bank account went from a lot in my business bank account to not enough to pay payroll if I didn't go source more business in a matter of 6 months. And in the middle of miscarrying, right? What does that teach you? That says, okay, I'm a lion. I have to go put myself in the ring of fire again. And I have to go do it. And I have to go say, I can't rely on this person. I can't rely on that person. I don't need anything from anyone other than me. And I'm going to go fix it. And that's exactly what I did. And that's ultimately where, my signature homework assignment and philosophy of coaching and all of that was born, which we don't need to get into, but that's
let's go there, because I know that all of these things have led to your philosophy on how you love to serve people. So let's go ahead and dive into that.
So super simple why I love serving people so much, right? I have been self-employed since I was 24. November 9th of 2014 was the day I incorporated Berman Media PD in Palm Desert, California, which is what PD stands for. No, it does not stand for police department, which a lot of people like to think. But I incorporated myself after leaving corporate America. I was only in it for about 6 months. I worked for a small public relations firm and absolutely hated it, because the boss did not care about the humans. She did not care about anything other than how big and deep her pockets were from how much money she was taking from her clients. And I did not like that experience. I was only 24 at the time. And I remember walking out of the office on my last day and walked into my parents' house and was like, I just quit. And my dad was like mortified. And he's like, Michelle, what are you going to do? And I'm like, I don't know. I haven't figured that out yet. And it didn't take long for me to figure it out. But let's just say, I was put on this planet, I wholeheartedly believe, to be in sales. I love sales. I love the act and the high that you have in the experience of getting that, right? More importantly, I love the fact that I have figured it out so well that I can now go teach a million other people to go do it, right? So to be at the core of it, what do I teach? I teach people how to use social as a vehicle to prospect through, meaning who should you be messaging? What should you say to them? And then ultimately, how do you get them booked on your calendar to create an opportunity for yourself to get them to say yes and here's money, right? For whatever your product might be. So outbound prospecting is my love language, and where I say that like jokingly, but it's not my real love language from the book. But I say outbound prospecting is the thing that just lights my fire, because so many people, solopreneurs, anybody in sales, entrepreneurship of any kind, if you want to be successful and make it past the 1 year, 5 year, whatever the quote unquote, I've made it and I've survived and I can keep going metric might be, you have to be a bulldog and you have to be willing to go source business. You have to know how to talk to people. And fast forward to today, we're in 2026, where social media is inundated with spam and AI. And that person clearly just copy and pasted that a million times and sent it to every single person and just changed the name. So I have this philosophy of the basics, and what we did or what we do in this very granular level is we send messages to people to get them to say yes to us. But how do we go about doing that? And there's a 4-part framework I teach that involves leverage. Leverage is my favorite word in the English dictionary. If you understand how to use it and use it in execution, you will never have the panic or the anxiety or the stress around where's my next lead coming from or where's my next opportunity coming from. And I remember going from November of 2024, didn't have enough money in my bank account to pay one more round of payroll unless I went to source, to fast forward to today, right? We're at the time of recording this, we're in, middle of May of 2026. I have taken 3 full months of maternity leave without any stress whatsoever where my next dollar is coming from. And that's not a long amount of time. to go from those two things.
Yeah, no, I love this so much. And that's actually where I was hoping this conversation is going to go actually, because I know that when I look at big picture and everything that you talked about with the miscarriage and the losing of the partner and having to hire quickly and all of these things, I'm guessing that you probably experienced a time in your life where you might have felt a little bit overwhelmed or burned out.
Oh, beyond. One of
Right,
my
and that's kind of what
favorite
we're talking
quotes.
about. Yeah, and so
Yeah.
you have been able, and that's what I love too, because when you effectively use social media, for example, when you
Mhm.
can work smarter, not harder, when you can make sure that the strategy that you're using is going to be just dialed in, right? It's not
Mhm.
about busy work and getting things done. It's about doing something strategically so that it's effective and efficient so
Yep.
that you can have less burnout. So I
Yeah.
want to just to tie this conversation back into, you were in this place where you were admittedly more concerned about the business than your own physical well-being at this point. So
Mhm.
lots going on in there. And then all of a sudden you're trying to like figure out how to make your business work without your partner, and your bank account looks different. So you're probably, you and I were both high achievers, right? So, and
Yeah.
we're like, we're figuring it out kind of people. So you're like, all right, well, let's do this. I'm going to get this done. And then all of a sudden you're like, I'm on this hamster wheel and this is not what I want. And so
Yep.
I'm just, tell me like a little bit about that journey as far as how were you able to get yourself off of that hamster wheel and this beautiful life that you built for
Oh
yourself?
my gosh, what an amazing question and so well put. So the answer to that is I got off the hamster wheel because I discovered what my black line was, which is why I named the book what I named it.
Yeah.
So anyone who's familiar with swimming, you know that you stare at the line on the bottom of a pool, it is black and it looks like a giant cross if you pay attention to it. And at the end of the wall, there's usually one on the wall, but I jokingly, kind of say it was the visual metronome that I would always trust and could talk to because it never talked back, but it was always there and it never moved. And that's the thing about what we need in life and in business. We need a visual or a sort of internal anchor.
Yeah.
And how I got back from where I was to where I now am is I figured out what my black line was, and I felt like I had to walk to the top of Mount Everest and just scream to tell everybody it's this, right? But what it is for me personally is one daily outbound prospecting message without fail every single day for 365 days of the year, and you never stop, right?
Mhm.
And I identified three core buckets that I need in my business
Yeah.
in order to feed the P&L, right? And what are those three things? I call them your drivers. So what are the three things that you must do on a monthly basis in order to drive revenue into your business, right? To create the opportunity to get the revenue. Now, I also want to make sure that everyone hearing me say right here, I did not say the word lead, right? So I said, what are the things that you must do in your business every single month that drive opportunity into your business that then present the opportunity for the lead, right? So you and I are probably identical: in-person speaking, webinars, and podcasts. Those are my three. So if I do those three things on a monthly basis, I know without fail that I
Mhm.
will create enough exposure to create enough leads that then create revenue. So one daily message every single day without fail, with the intention of getting calls booked on my calendar that can feed into one of those three things, right?
Yeah.
Or fill one of those three buckets. And then how we get there is what I call leverage, or why I talk about leverage, which is who are the people in your life that you could use to build bridges between them to get to the person that you don't know. Now, tie it all together. You're sending one message every single day using social as the vehicle. So I use Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn as my big three, but I
Mhm.
will send a message to someone that I do not know,
Mhm.
name dropping someone I do, aka my lever. And the idea is that out of that, I want a yes for a call booked on my calendar that can help me get one of those three drivers that I just mentioned.
Yeah.
So think of it as just this really beautiful water wheel where one thing feeds to the next, that feeds to the next thing, the
Mhm.
wheel's moving by itself,
Yes.
right? That's the core philosophy. But when you strip it all down, it is so wildly, stupidly simple. One message every single day without fail to someone you do not know, name dropping someone you do. That's it.
Yeah, I mean, it's so beautiful and it's so simple. And I love the fact that you use social media, because if you're like, "Oh, I don't know this person," you can like go in and peek on their profile and be like, "All right, like,
Exactly.
I actually want to get to know this person," right? And I, that's my favorite preferred way to connect with people as well, because you get a little bit more information from that. And I also think that what you said was so brilliant as far as the consistency piece. I find that over and over again, people get stuck with their success because of lack of confidence, lack of consistency, right? And lack of clarity. And
Oh
you've
yeah.
given us all of that, right? So when
Yep.
you can show up every day and it's not 100 things, like you and I probably are similar in that it's like we go balls to the walls or maybe nothing. Like I'm an all or nothing kind of person.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't mean 100 messages, it means one, and making that a
One.
non-negotiable. Like you do not go to sleep until you've done your one promise to yourself. And what happens is that when you fulfill your promises to yourself, when you're consistently taking action, that's when confidence follows.
Bingo.
When you stop following through and you don't consider yourself trustworthy anymore, that's when you start to lose your self-esteem, and now you're spiraling down and you have a negative feedback loop, and all of a sudden your results aren't where it blah 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 blah, right? So I love
Yep.
how you kept it so simple. One thing every single day that you commit to without fail, and it's so
Yep.
beautiful. Can we read more about your philosophy and all that stuff in the Black Line?
Oh, for sure. It's 9 chapters of dissecting all of that in depth. But one thing you said about burnout, I want to make sure I say this
Yeah.
before my new mom brain forgets to say it out loud. But one of the things about burnout, and I have experienced burnout more times than I can count, right? As a solopreneur and as a mom and as a wife and as a friend, trying to do all the things with
Mhm.
all in all categories of life.
Mhm.
One of the things I realized in all of this, and now love to say this quote out loud because it's one of
Yeah.
my favorite things to say. Burnout is not doing too much, it's doing too much of the
Yes.
wrong thing,
100%.
right?
Yes.
So when people say I'm burnt out, okay, well, are you burnt out because you're putting all of your eggs and energy into something that you don't really like to do? So burning out or being burnt out isn't doing too much overall. So
Yeah.
we look at our day to day and we're like, well, no, I'm not really doing too much. It's the things that I am doing don't align for
Yes, they're
me.
misaligned 100%. So they suck your
Yeah.
energy and they're not
Yep.
joyful and all the things. Like I will never stop working. Like as long as I have like my physical body that is allowing me to continue to do things, I will always do what I'm doing in
Yes,
some
absolutely.
capacity because I love it so much, right?
Yeah.
But there are definitely things where I'm just like, ugh, somebody else could take that. You
Yeah,
know,
like here's an example, right? I love coaching and I love my clients and our private calls and all that stuff. But
Mhm.
you know what I really love is I really, really love teaching the prospecting piece more specifically, right? So when I
Yeah.
coach clients or in my program, which I'm sure
Mhm.
yours is very similar, right? We have phases to coaching.
Mhm.
So in phase one, we got to fix a certain aspect of things, but phase two is prospecting specifically. So instead of me trying to do all 10 of your private coaching calls from the day you register to the
Yes.
end, I was
Yes.
like, yo, this is not serving my energy levels
100,
whatsoever.
100%. I am,
So phase one is not done by me anymore, right?
yes.
It's done by my
Yes.
head coach, who's a former
Mhm.
teacher, and she is brilliant and
Yep.
patient as all get out,
Yes.
right? You get to phase two, I get to actually teach you how to send messages and turn those messages into ROI. That lights me up like nobody's business.
Yes.
And you got to strip it back and say, all the other thing I did, and I'm, if you haven't, I encourage you to, but I'm sure you already have, knowing what I know about you already. I also went from 1 hour coaching sessions to 30 minutes.
Mm.
That was a huge,
That is
huge
that is
thing.
a really big. I've been both the recipient and the person who does that. So people can book 30 minutes on my calendar with me.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And when I've been a consumer of that process, like I know that I have 30 minutes. So I better come prepared with what I want to talk about. I am like
Yep.
very intentional when I'm the recipient of that. And it's so much more fun because you actually get enough done in the meantime
Yep.
on the actual calls.
You
Now,
get off those calls and you're like, damn, I did all that in 30 minutes.
it's amazing. And I'm just like
Get
you
to
in the
the
sense
point,
that like
right?
I'm very much like a one to many like thought leader. And
Yeah.
as much as I love helping people, I get more energy when I'm in a group of people or teaching people how to do
Yep.
what I do. And but I have people on my team that are brilliant at the one-on-one part. And I think that that's something that is
Yep.
important when we talk about hiring and we talked about DISC, right?
Yep.
Is that I had to remind myself over and over again that just because I don't enjoy doing this doesn't mean that she doesn't. Right?
Yep.
And so it's
Hmm.
like amazing. So I have to keep reminding myself that I'm not delegating to be mean. I'm actually giving her what she loves. And so when you can
Yeah.
find people that have gifts that you don't have, but have the same mission and values and just like see your
Yeah.
big picture, you guys like it's unstoppable. And then you can stay in your lane more. You can do what lights you up more.
Yes.
And that's the thing. And being able to delegate the things that are not one of my favorite books is 10X is easier than 2X.
Ooh,
Read that
good
one
one.
yet?
It's a very good one. Yes.
Yeah. And so it's like, oh my gosh, like, yeah, well, what am I good at? But what am I really excellent at? And what do I love to do? And all of those things. It's so
well,
fun.
and like think about systems, right? I'm as high D's, we're not good at systems. Like I at least I'm definitely not in the form of the back end, right? Like this goes into like SOP. Do not ask me to build an SOP because I don't know, right? Like I just know how to do it. So when I hired my now director of coaching, that was one of the things she asked me. She's like, well, Michelle, what's your process? And I'm like, well, shit, Danny, I don't know. Right. So we had to get on Zoom and she's like, okay, I'm just going to record this. And I just want you to word vomit on me. Like, just say everything that you do in order as best as you can.
Yeah.
Right? And so she's over there like frantically taking notes and make sure Fathom is on. And it's just this beautiful thing when you realize what it is, because I feel like I was able to really strip it all down and remember something that I've always believed, which is sometimes we have to do less so that we can accomplish more.
Yeah.
And in doing that, I also think there's something very powerful about empowering your team and learning how to delegate. Because when I've delegated certain tasks and they get the privilege, if you will, in their minds of being the ones that I delegate to, they love it. Like they love it. And in my mind, I'm like, oh, thank God, I don't want to do that. So I'm so glad that you do.
Yes.
But yeah, no, I think just in general, burning out, and one of the things for me too with burnout is I am a huge advocate of like when your heart is telling you, hey, I need to get in the car and drive to the beach, do it. Because your body's telling you something. It's giving you a sign. And if you don't listen to it, the only person you're hurting is yourself and your immediate periphery.
100%. And that's just it, right? Like we expect that I have to plug in my cell phone every day. So why wouldn't I make sure that I'm adding things that add energy to me versus just taking energy away from me? And I want to cover something really quickly before we tie up this episode, because I think it's so important. I've taught social media for years now, but the missing piece that you brought to this that I teach over and over again is that social media, and this, I want to just hear what your thoughts are on this. People have, in my opinion, the assumption that you're going to post something, you're going to get all of these people in the box and saying, here's my credit card, how do I sign up? And so when that doesn't happen, they're like, I must suck. My message must be wrong. And they stop posting and they stop engaging and all the things. And it's just this cycle, right?
Oof,
where I always describe it like fishing. I can put my line in the water, right? You maybe in some point of your California existence, you guys go fishing. I don't know.
Oh, I love fishing. Your analogy is landing. Keep going.
Okay, so you can throw your line in the water, but I can't expect the fish to just jump in my boat. I need to reel it in. I need to take it off the hook. I need to do the thing. And so that's what the conversations are about. That's what the engagement's about. That's where, and money, you guys, money is an exchange of energy from one person to another person. So if you are expecting yourself to just post nonstop on social media and not actually have an interaction with another human being, you're going to be throwing spaghetti against the wall. You're going to be possibly misaligned action, which leads to more burnout. Like all of these things that we're talking about fit together so perfectly with the things that I've experienced, the things that my clients experience. And so what are your thoughts around all of that?
Oh gosh, I mean, honestly, can we make our own conference and just be like, all y'all female entrepreneurs come on and hang out? But here's what I want to say. Your content is the foundation of how you prospect. Yes. Meaning, if your content sucks, it does not matter how good your prospecting is because it will go nowhere. Therefore, you do need to spend time and energy on what your content looks like. Yes. Like from a visual perspective as well as from a value perspective.
Yes.
But it is not the end game, right? Yes. Meaning if you're living on the hamster wheel of content, you have an editor that comes to your house to record 20 videos every single month, and you're going and you're trying to do all this B-roll content 24/7. Yeah, you're going to get burnt out because no one human can function on that frequency for that long. We just can't. No. Right? So for me, I record content. I go on podcasts like this. I speak. I do fun things like that I can turn into content. But I also share a lot of my personal life. Yep. My husband, my kids, my coffee shop runs, all the stuff, right? Yeah. Because I'm a normal human. But here's where people miss the boat. And this is where I believe I was truly put on this planet to create change. I wholeheartedly believe that. And where I create the changes in this one piece You can go have the best, most visually, aesthetically beautiful social media content on the planet.
Mhm.
But if you do not outbound prospect every single day, if you do
Yes.
not send a message to someone intentionally, meaning I opened my phone and I see this person named Julie. I don't know who Julie is. Well, guess what? Julie's connected to 5 other people that I know. So what am I going to do? I'm going to take a second. I'm going to look at Julie's content, see what she does,
Mhm.
look at our connections and what our connections do. And all of this is happening in our mind, and it's very subliminal and very quick, right? So this
Yes.
is not a 20-minute experience I'm having. This is like a
Right.
micro minute of maybe 30 seconds, right?
Yes.
And now I'm looking at Julie and I'm like, oh, wait, Julie is an events director for this big mortgage conference that I've had my eye on for a while. Whoa, right? Now my brain is going synapse. Who can I use to get to that person? And now I see, oh, Julie is in his picture with 3 people that I know, 2 of which I've already spoken for in the past. So now guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to send a message to Julie, and I'm going to do 2 things. Number one, I'm going to name drop a lever, someone I have a relationship with that she also has a relationship with. That's number one. Number two, I'm going to establish a personal connection with the lever in my message before I ask for anything, right? Meaning my ask doesn't even come until the very end of the message. And it's not a, hey, I want you to hire me. It's a, hey, I'd love to get on a Zoom and see if there might be some synergy between the 2 of us. I
Yeah.
could dissect that. I won't right now.
Yeah.
Right. So here's the thing, you need leverage and you need a personal connection to the lever in the message. One of the things that people forget all the time when it comes to social media, and you will love this because I know you have a watch on too, we all have watches, right? So we get the preview of a message that someone sends us
Yes.
to our watch.
Yes.
Therefore, if you say, can I pick your brain in the opening sentence, I'm out. If you say, I'd love to get on a call with you in the opening sentence of your message, I'm out because I can read that on my watch or on the preview on my iPhone.
Yes.
So earn
Yes.
it and layer it properly at the end of a message with what I call a time anchored call to action.
Yeah.
Another conversation that we can workshop
Yeah.
on, right,
Yeah.
with
Oh
people.
my gosh. This conversation. Sorry, I keep going.
No, I'm done. I just wanted to say that's the biggest thing, right? I feel like people totally miss the boat here. And when I say this, I say you have to outbound prospect. They're like, oh yeah, I comment on people's stuff and I message 50, 75 people a day. Like I got on a call with a woman she runs a big women's empowerment group and it's a membership. I love what they do, but
Yeah.
I was like, what do you mean you're sending 25 to 50 messages? And she was like, well, that's what I thought I was supposed to do. And I was like, hold on a second. Name I won't say out loud, but what's your batting average, right? Like how many are you
Right.
actually
Right.
responding and getting on your
Yeah.
calendar? And she goes, oh, maybe 1 or 2. And I'm like, okay, well, how many are converting? 1 out of every 10. And I was like, girl, you got a messaging problem because you're doing what everybody else is doing on this platform, but
Right.
spamming, hey, we seem like we might be aligned. I'd love to get on a call. I don't even know you. I'm not aligned with anything about you because I don't know who you are and how we should or why we should know each other. Yeah, my soapbox here is passionate, but I just really believe that we live in a world that is full of noise, so
Yes.
much noise. And with social media specifically, if you want my attention, you have to earn it. And the best way to earn it is to create a lever between the 2 of us. How do we know each other? Why should I care? Because of whatever your personal connection is. And then also make sure you wrote it, which
Yes.
is why I didn't say 10 messages. I didn't say 20 messages a day. I said 1, right? Because I wrote it. I typed it. Claude didn't write it, and ChatGPT didn't write it.
Yeah. I mean, I actually prefer doing voice
I
messages
love them
with
too.
people
Yes.
because it's like, it's me. It's not
For
AI.
sure.
You could hear my energy. I don't know. It just intrigues me. And you can't hear that on preview on your iPhone.
Or your Garmin watch like
On your
mine, right?
Garmin watch, I know, right?
No, I love your
There's
point is
there's so many things, girlfriend, that I feel like you and I could have hours and hours of content just spitballing off of each other and what's working because we're so aligned. And I just love what you're doing. I love that you're helping people create balance without having to give up the impact that they want and the income that they want. And your resiliency is so palpable. Your vulnerability and your authenticity, there's a reason that you make it on these beautiful stages. And I'm so glad that you were here today. You guys are going to make sure that we have all of the ways to connect with Michelle in the show notes so that if you want to check out her book, The Black Line. If you want to follow her, if you want to connect with her, you'll have all the ways to do that. Michelle, is there anything that we didn't talk about that you really wanted to add?
Gosh, no. I mean, I love this episode, and I go on a lot of podcasts, but this is just one that feels so aligned and centered to me because it's just, we need more truth, right? We need to be more honest with what actually matters. And I'm frankly kind of sick of going to all of these big conferences and hearing people get on stage talking about social media and you need to buy this gadget and you need to get this video app and you need like, and I'm just like, can we just get to what actually matters and what actually makes a difference in someone's life?
Yes.
And as an entrepreneur, the reason we choose that life is because we want balance and we want to be able to say, I want to work or I don't want to work, or I want to go on vacation when I want to go, or I want to travel, or whatever our
Yeah.
thing might be.
Yeah.
And for me, it's being a super present mom. I want to do pickup. I want to do drop off. I want to do swim lessons. I want to do all the things and I never want to miss it.
Right.
So I had to make that decision of what does that look like for my life and how do I create momentum where I can do that.
Yeah.
And when I got very clear on what that was, which is I have to send one message every single day, to your point, I don't go to bed at night unless I have
Yeah.
done that one thing
Yeah.
because it affords me that life. I don't need to make $1 million a year, guys. I really don't. I don't need that much money, right? We don't take it with us when we go anyway. So who
Right.
cares?
Right.
But what I do need is to be able to afford summer camp and flights to go for us to go to South Carolina for a week with my family just so I can disconnect and be on the beach. Like, so choose your hard, right? If you're okay with making 50 grand a year and that's enough for you and your family,
Yep.
then that's enough and be okay with that.
Yes.
If you want to make 500, go make 500, but don't let yourself put your head on your pillow at night without having executed that one non-negotiable in order to maintain the life you've chosen.
Yes. Amen. Oh my gosh. Small compounded efforts over time lead to really big results, and they can be done so with flow and joy and ease and fun. And I love it so much. Michelle, thank you. You guys, I hope that you had as much fun with this episode as I did. Make sure that you say hi to us on stories when we share this episode. Leave a review and let us know what you got out of this. We want to hear from you. Let this be, as you were mentioning, Michelle, social media feels noisy. It's full of AI, it's full of gimmicks, and what people are craving are real, authentic relationships with real people. So you guys, we want to hear from you. Let us be in relation with you as a real person, and we're so glad that you're here. Michelle, thank you so much, and I'll see you guys next week.
Thank you guys
so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe and leave a review. Each honest review helps me spiral up so that I can serve you even better. Whether you're feeling a lack of impact, income, or time freedom, or perhaps you're just ready for massive momentum in your business, let's chat. Apply for a call so that you can gain clarity, identify what's holding you back, and make a plan to spiral up. Head on over to iam-lifebydesign.com/breakthrough or access the link in the show notes. For immediate support, log into our community, the Better Club. We focus on inspiration, tactical guidance, and support. This is a community that wants to be better, do better, and have better in life and in business, and we're going to help you do the same. Let's spiral up, friends.